The chime of the bell beckons us into a sacred time. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston, a congregation that welcomes you no matter what you look like or who you love, no matter how you practice spirituality, because we know we need not think alike to love alike. We extend a heartfelt and inclusive invitation to join us in meaningful worship and in service to the world. Please make note that the responses that are usually found in your order of service are now on laminated cards that you can find in your hymnals. It's easy to use the icons in the order of service to find the corresponding response on the laminated card. We have several folks under the weather this morning. We look forward to them feeling better and returning here to be with us. Michael Lenahan has stepped in for Chelsea for the morning. We thank him. Dr. Rock is not sick. She's out of town, but we welcome Dr. Jan Taylor and Jim McGehee, who are also stepping in this morning. While mask wearing in the sanctuary is currently optional, you are encouraged to continue to wear your mask if you are more comfortable doing so. Now please join our guest song leader, Jim, and raise your voice in song for our first hymn.
Good morning. Please take your teal hymnal and turn to hymn number 1008, and please rise in body or in spirit or both, and we'll sing When Our Heart Is in a Holy Place.
Hope. This morning we speak of hope. The outside chance, the possibility, the ever-present reality that even when things are difficult or hard, they might be, in the always coming future, different than they are. Hope for change can be found in the smile of a stranger, sparkling petals, rays of sun, small pieces of kindness, Hope is here now, pointing the way. Let us find it. Let us act upon it. Let us see it growing ever stronger amid and amongst us in this hour. Come, friends, let us worship together.
Celebremos compartiendo nuestras vidas, enciendiendo esta luz.
Act upon hope. Hope. Act upon hope. Though dark clouds are gathering, there's no need to despair. A history of victories is happening everywhere. Hidden in the luster, planted in the past, the seeds of our utopias are growing in the cracks. We need a litany, a rosary, a shout, a chant, a melody for our hope. Act upon hope. Hope. Act upon hope. Search out the openings, build castles in the air. Fill them up with good stuff, do the things you wouldn't dare. Test out possibilities, keep an eye out for the gaps. When things are so uncertain, you can find some room to act. We need a litany, a rosary, a shout, a chant, a melody for our hope. Act upon hope. Act upon hope. Hope is the house of standing after the hurricane. Hope is the crop we harvest after the pouring rain. Hope can be the mending after all the pain. Hope is feeling hopeless and then finding hope again. We need a litany, a rosary, a shout, a chant, a melody for our hope. Act upon hope. Hope in the dark times. Hope in the dark times. Light in the dark times. Light in the dark times. Laughter in the dark times. Laughter in the dark times. Singing 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 in the dark times. Singing.
Thank you so much. When I heard that Reverend Colin was going to be talking this morning about hope, it reminded me of a quote by the renowned author Lemony Snicket. Some of the younger folks may have heard of that person. Lemony Snicket wrote, "Strange as it may seem, I still hope for the best, even though the best, like an interesting piece of mail, so rarely arrives, and even when it does, it can be lost so easily." That is why it is so good that the young people can come here and be with their friends and look for and hold on to hope like an interesting piece of mail. So, young people, you give us hope because you're the future of the church. And I'd love for all the adults to grab your new, oh, you all don't have them up here, do you? Oh, we'll have to correct that. Grab your new pew cards with the lyrics to As You Go and sing them on their way. With me in a spirit of reflection, a time that some call meditation and others name prayer. Breathe with me the breath of life. Breathe in for loving, for acceptance, and with a sense of calm. Breathe out the sorrow, the division, and the stress. Inhale as we share this interwoven, intricate web of affinity. Exhale as we feel one another's presence. Breathe with me as we gather to do the holy work of kinship and support. Open your mind, open your heart. God of many names and mystery beyond all our naming, we bow our heads in order to imagine not one path, but many. We imagine a path forward for those who cannot imagine any path forward because of poor health, financial hardship, family crises, and other roadblocks we cannot begin to understand or imagine. We struggle to imagine a path forward for those who are forced to leave a homeland against their will, and for those unable to leave a war-torn homeland despite their lives being in danger. We imagine a path forward for those who leave their homes to make a better life for their families elsewhere. May we be a welcoming presence along that path toward hope. We come together to imagine a path forward for those of us despairing because we do not seem to know our country nor our neighbors, despite the fact that we have not moved at all. May we be the good we are hoping to find as we travel side by side down the path toward hope. We imagine a path forward for those who feel lonely. May we take one another's hands as we walk that path toward community. Truly, we know as we imagine these days forward and take one another's hands, the paths will lead to hope. The roads will lead to beloved community, and the arc will bend toward justice because we have dared to travel with love in our hearts. We pray in the names of all those known and unknown, present and absent, remembered and forgotten. We pray in the names of all helpers of humankind. Amen. We pause now together to lift up that which sits heavy and light on our hearts. We remember Tawana's family. She just learned that her uncle has passed away. We also remember in our prayers Tawana's dear friend Carolyn Rich and member Audrey Gale Hall, both of whom are battling health issues. We lift up Malu Garcia, the sister of Maru Farnos, who continues to struggle with her health, and Carol Galanti, who is improving with the help of her sister Diane Stotz. Book Club mainstay Doug Carlisle continues to convalesce at St. Dominic Village Rehab Center, while George Cawthon does the same at his home. The memorial service for longtime church member Joyce Ambler will be here on November 25th at 11 a.m. We send our love to John and the entire Ambler family. In our book, which we put in the foyer for you to put your joys and concerns in each week, someone has proclaimed that they are grateful that we survived some of the insanity connected with the election. We now turn to a practice inspired by African, indigenous, and pagan traditions. We say aloud or bring to mind those we wish to be held by the loving embrace of this religious community. They are part of the great cloud of witness and memory, and we will, even if we do not know their names, hold them in our hearts. In this great cloud of witness and memory, amid this beloved community, we hear these names and hold them in our hearts. Let us remember the suffering and joy amid and among our community that we do not know. We pause in awe and wonder of the beauty, diversity, and mystery that is life. In the spirit of love, in the spirit of hope, and in the spirit of compassion, I invite each of you to enter into a time of silent prayer, meditation, or reflection. Each week, our morning offering is shared with an organization that shares our Unitarian Universalist values and through which we may live out our principles in the world. This week, that organization is HAWK, the Houston Area Women's Center. HAWK serves thousands of women, children, and families each year, escaping domestic violence, sexual assault, or sex trafficking. This morning, we welcome longtime member Carlos Rodriguez to tell us more.
I'm going to adjust this. Sorry. Good morning. Thank you. Thank you for that warm welcome. Today I'm speaking on HAWK's behalf. Our mission and history. The Houston Area Women's Center, HAWK's mission is to end domestic violence and sexual violence for all. While we are called the Women's Center, we serve everyone, men, women, non-binary folk, everyone. HAWK was established in 1977 by a few dedicated volunteers and a few borrowed phones, ready to answer the call for women in violent relationships with nowhere to run. We have since grown to a staff of more than 170 advocates, reaching more than 50,000 people each year. HAWK services. HAWK services are completely free and confidential. Crisis response team. So from the first moment survivors need help until they gain a sense of stability, our crisis response team is there every step of the way. Services consist of 24-hour hotline services, 1 domestic violence hotline and 1 sexual assault hotline, safety planning, and knowing the signs, etc. 24-hour emergency shelter with 120 beds, hospital advocacy and support. When a survivor goes to the hospital immediately following their trauma, HAWK's advocates accompany them any time of the day or night and provide advocacy and resources. Survivor empowerment. Our services provide survivors and their families the tools they need to regain their confidence, develop financial independence, navigate the court systems if they choose, and rebuild their lives free from violence. Services consist of counseling, legal advocacy, children's youth services, economic empowerment coaching and classes, housing support, and we provide rental assistance for up to 2 years, but the lease is in their name as well. Violence prevention. HAWK's work with our community members to build a greater understanding of domestic violence and sexual violence in order to reduce and ultimately prevent its occurrence. Each year, our staff train thousands, including youth, medical teams, law enforcement, mental health, legal professionals, and faith-based leaders, and more. How can you help? Spread the word, tell your family and friends and network about what we do. You never know who has been affected by this public health crisis, and then visit hawk.org or call our hotline, which 713-528-2121. Donate our donations. Our services are free. This means we depend on government grants and philanthropy from community members like you to operate. And then volunteer opportunities. Visit hawk.org/get-involved. Get involved to learn more about opportunities to volunteer. You can build kits for clients, provide client childcare, and assist our program teams in administrative duties. I've been there for this whole year, since the beginning of the year. I've never felt more purposeful, and I really have had the privilege to work with really great people. And so the work that we are doing really does matter, and I appreciate y'all giving me the time to speak for HAWK. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. Those in our sanctuary will find the instructions for text giving in the order of service, and those watching the live stream will see the instructions on your screen. Our regular Sunday morning offering collection invites us to weave a tapestry of love and action. We ask you to give generously. An offering will now be gratefully received.
Please join with me in reading the words to dedicate our offering found on your pew card. To the work of this church, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings. Our first reading is from The Political Theology of the Earth by Catherine Keller. The work of hope, far from any certainty, is a hazardous business. In its public urgency, it does not postpone or predict the not yet so much as it begins to perform it, to ingather, to contradict it. So then, hope cuts free of the numbing cycle of optimism and pessimism. Optimism and pessimism both know the outcome. The hazardous hope, however, does not know, does not predict, nor does it patiently await. Draped in black, this hope grieves even as it activates, even now. Here ends the first reading.
The second reading, Barriere, is an anthem of the current Iranian protest movement. Shervan Hajipur composed it of tweets made by the protesters. The translator is unknown. For all the footloose dancing in the street, for all the fearful moments when our two lips meet, for all the sisters mine, sisters yours, sisterhood, for all the brains that need to change from thinking obsolete, for all the shame of being hungry with no coins to spare, for all the yearning for lives that could be free and fair, for all the children left behind who don't know how to wish, for all the economic-based despair, for all the poison floating in the air, for all the tree-lined streets their greed will strip them bare, for all the animals like Perus who depend on us, for all the dogs put to death with no time to prepare, for all the tears that spill so endlessly, for all the fathers who have suffered grief so senselessly, for all the faces laughing happily, for all the students bravely making this tremendous leap, for all the mandatory paradise, for all the locked away but sage advice, for all the Afghan kids who pay the price, for all the lines that I could write and never say one twice, for all the claims they love to make as empty as their hearts, for all the households collapsed because of faulty parts, for all the feelings of serenity, for all the warmth of the sunrise when the new day starts, for all the sleeping pills we take like cups of tea, for all the men, our land, prosperity, for all the girls who ever longed to be one of the boys, for all the women, life, let's be free. Let's be free. Let's be free. Let's be free. Here ends the second reading.
Let's turn again to the teal hymnal, and we're going to sing number 1017, We Are Building a New Way, all 4 verses. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. Hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. We can feel our every need. We can feel our every need. We can feel our every need. Start with love, that is the seed. We can feel our every need. Freedom is our right. Peace and freedom is our right. Peace and freedom is our right. Without peace, the world will die. Peace and freedom is our
This past summer, I had the opportunity to hear the Commoners Choir in concert. The show was part of their Hope and Anger tour. They're a British folk choir that sings all original compositions. Our choir sang one of their pieces earlier, Hope. It was the song's North American debut. Hidden in the bluster, planted in the past, the seeds of our utopias are growing in the cracks. We need a litany, a rosary, a shout, a melody for our hope. Act upon hope. The lyric offers us a title for the sermon today, Act Upon Hope. It's always difficult to know exactly what to preach about on the Sunday following an election. No matter what has happened, there's going to be a variety of feelings amongst the congregation. Some of you are going to be disappointed. Some of you are likely to be satisfied. Some of you are probably just sick of hearing about electoral politics. And more than a few of you are probably experiencing a mixture of all of these emotions. Act upon hope. Hope is always a good subject for such a service. It relates well to any of the feelings I named. If you're disappointed, then you might hope that things will be different in the future. If you're excited, then you may have hope for the impact upon the election on public policy, or simply be relieved that all of the election deniers who are running for Secretary of State lost. And if you're tired of electoral politics, then you could be looking forward to a respite from them, at least once the results of all the House elections finally come in. Hope fits well with our monthly theme as well. All month we are reflecting upon what grounds us, and the faith of many Unitarian Universalists rests upon hope. This brings me back to the song from the Commoners Choir. While you may not know them, you're almost certainly familiar with their conductor, even if you don't know his name. Bob Whaley was for many years one of the primary songwriters for the band Chumbawamba. And even if the name means nothing to you, I assure you that you've heard their most popular song, Tub Thumping, the chorus of which contains words of hope. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never going to keep me down. Now, I've long been a fan of Chumbawamba. They had one of the greatest ranges of any pop group of the last decades. They made house music, played punk, sang traditional English protest songs, and arranged choral pieces. None of those, as far as I'm aware, had been performed by congregational choirs, at least until I asked Boff if he would be okay with if ours sang one. And being an extraordinarily generous person, he not only shared one piece of music with us, but shared with Dr. Jolie and myself their full set of choral arrangements. The test out the possibilities, keep an eye out for the gaps. When things are so uncertain, you can find some room to act. One of the things that I appreciate about this composition is that it accomplishes something I aim for in much of my preaching. It points out the possibility of a better world. It reminds us that whatever the situation we currently face, there is a history of victories to look to, and the seeds for a more just society are already here. I'll return to that claim in a moment. But first, I want to observe that I saw the Commoners Choir while they were on their Hope and Anger tour. And hope and anger is actually a pretty good description for a lot of Unitarian Universalist preaching. The tension between the two has even found its way into one of the very few recent television depictions of Unitarian Universalist clergy. This Fool is a show about a gang rehabilitation center in Los Angeles. In the pilot episode, the lead character introduces someone to the center's founder, a Unitarian Universalist minister. The minister quickly goes on a rant about the miserliness of a billionaire donor. It seems that the donor has recently spent hundreds of millions of dollars on vanity spaceflight while giving the center a scant $2,000 or $10,000 check. Voicing his frustration, the clergyman declaims, to no one in particular, "Please, throw a few more pennies down from the troposphere. Astronaut son of a," and storms off. This prompts one of the characters to turn to another and ask, "That fool is a minister?" He's a Unitarian Universalist. Those fools are like hippies, but angry. It's actually not a terrible description of a lot of Unitarian Universalists that I know. Might even apply to me, though I'm not much of a hippie. Still, the phrase captures a core tension and a core move in a lot of our theology. We begin with a description of what is, then we turn to imagining what should be. The distance between the two can make us angry, and the path that runs from one to the other can offer us hope. Hope, it should be remembered, is not the same thing as optimism. Optimism, the theologian Catherine Keller reminds us, knows the outcome. The optimist has a sense that no matter what happens, things will largely turn out for the best. Their sentiment is based on the opinion that the universe itself is essentially benign. A cursory glance at the human history of the world suggests that such a position is unwarranted. There has been too much suffering. We humans have done too many horrible things to each other and to the planet for me to believe that everything is just going to turn out for the best. Hope is a hazardous business, Keller claims. It is the possibility of a different future, not its guarantee. It acknowledges what is and then points to what should be and argues that there is a chance, even if it is so thin, that there might be a path from here to there. The opposite of hope is found in words expressed by George Orwell, written in his famous novel 1984. There, one of his characters states, "If you want to picture the future, imagine a boot stomping on a human face forever." Just as optimism is the faith that all things will be well, has not been testified by the course of human history, the pessimism of Orwell's statement is equally unwarranted. Hope reminds us that there is always some chance before us to bring more beauty and kindness into the world. That even when we are surrounded by hate, we can choose to act from love. One of the most powerful stories about this kind of hope that I know of comes from the Holocaust survivor Gerda Weizmann Klein. Writing of her time in Auschwitz, she recounts, "Ilse, a childhood friend of mine, once found a raspberry in the camp and carried it in her pocket all day to present to me that night on a leaf." Imagine a world in which your entire possession is one raspberry and you give it to your friend. Klein's story is not about the triumph of good over evil. It's not an assurance that suffering will end or that better days are coming. It is a tale about how even amid despair and the depths of human horror, people can still sometimes share beauty. And there are few things more beautiful in the world than a wild raspberry. And act from love and offer each other friendship. That is what hope is. It acknowledges what is, awful as it might be. It is naming what should be, lovely as it could be. And it is making a gesture to bridge the gap. Holocaust, the height of human cruelty. Sharing a raspberry, an expression of the human solidarity that reflects the best within us. The tension between the two, hope. Hope provides a ground for our Unitarian Universalist faith. In the classical Unitarian theology of the 19th century, figures like William Ellery Channing used to speak of the likeness of God. You might have heard me make some reflections upon this statement in the past. In a famous sermon, Channing set forth an essential assertion about the nature of our tradition. He preached, "True religion consists in proposing as our great end a growing likeness to the Supreme Being." This sentiment rests upon the belief that within each of us resides something that theists call the spark of the divine. We are each born with potential. The purpose of religious community should be to help us uncover and live into that potential. Yes, there will be human cruelty. Yes, there will be human failure. But yes, there is a chance that we each might blossom. So, such hope is not necessarily an assurance of permanent victory. Sometimes it's just an interruption of the awful with the beautiful. A smile, a raspberry, a kind word, a reminder that love exists. These little acts of hope are available in many circumstances. Think of your own life. If it is anything like mine, it has had its periods of disappointment, defeat, and despair. I've certainly had my dark nights of the soul when it felt like the odds were stacked against me and there was little chance that things would get better. And things have not always gotten better. But even when they have not, there have always been those things, those cracks in the sidewalk that have reminded me to invoke Dr. King, that no lie can live forever. Things change. There is human kindness and flowers to be found in unexpected places. I wonder if that has been your experience. Your heart feels like breaking. There is so much heaviness. The strain between what is and what should be is profound. And then a stranger smiles, or you look up at a tree's canopied complexity, or you savor a sip of tea, or there is some small thing that happens which calls you beyond the difficulty of the hour and reminds you that the future is unwritten and that there is still some good to be found. The sentiment is rich within Sheravin Hajipuri's song Baraye. It's the anthem of the protest movement currently in Iran. He composed it from the tweets of those in the streets and those who support them. It reflects the reasons why, after more than 40 years of theocratic regime, many Iranian people continue to strive for a better country. The song contains many statements about the awfulness that people experience under living under the regime. There is economic-based despair, tears spilled so endlessly, and households collapsed because of faulty parts. But there is also footloose dancing in the streets and the warmth of sunrise when the new day starts. Overall, I find in Barrier a testament to how it is possible, even in the brutality of the hour, to both find hope and act upon it. It's not a simple matter to act upon hope. Awful regimes thrive on making us imagine that the future is fixed and that there is nothing we can do to change their course. Orwell's adage ended with the word forever. And forever is perhaps the most unrealistic word in the English language. Not even stars last forever. The greatest failure of political imagination, or any kind of imagination, is the thought that the society is arranged, the way society is arranged now is either how it has been in the past or how it will be in the future. In both our personal lives and in our society, hope should be found in the assurance that we are all moving in the river of time. Any moment might contain delight or difficulty, but our lives and our world will be different in other moments. An embrace of the lack of permanent victory, a hope based on the reality of ever-changing, ever-shifting, ever-altering universe, is core to Unitarian Universalism. Returning to Channing's famous sermon, in it he does not promise everlasting salvation. Instead, he holds out the chance that there will be times in our lives when a ray of infinite light may yet break forth and shine like the sun. We might grow in this hour in the likeness of God, and yet in the next discover that we have done some ill. But there always remains some odds, great or small, that we can be touched by kindness and generosity. Channing's words are almost 200 years old. They may seem antiquated to you. Human hope is a deeply personal matter. Each generation expresses it in different words. Catherine Keller wrote her reflections on hope in a work trying to make theological sense of the climate crisis. The reality that we humans might destroy the capacity for our planet to sustain us, and the hope that we as a species might escape such destruction, is not something that earlier generations had to put into words, had to cast into the language of hope. The hopes listed in Barrier contain several items that are similarly bound up in the time and place of early 21st century Iran. A Unitarian Universalist approach to theology, as I stated earlier, is to name what is, imagine what should be, and attempt to travel the path to act upon hope between the two. What was yesterday differs from what is today. What will be tomorrow is not going to be the same as what exists now. My imaginings and yours are in some ways other than those of our ancestors, and likewise will seem strange to future generations. Even if much is the same, continuing desires for clean air, clean water, good food, shelter, companionship, and some work to call honest, there will also be much that is different. The least difference might be the language. My family's not always spoken English. Generations ago, my ancestors named their imaginings in Yiddish, Ladino, German, and many other tongues. This is probably true for your family as well. I mention language because we are at a moment in the life of our congregation when we are trying to put our hopes into the words of the generations now living. As you might know, we're currently in the process of drafting a new mission, vision, and covenant for the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston. This is a process designed to help us better live out our theology. We're figuring out what we aspire to, our mission. We're envisioning how we'll bring that about, our vision. And we're telling each other how we will promise to work together, to live together, to make these things happen, our covenant. Today, you have an important opportunity to help articulate our collective hopes and imagine how we might act upon them. Our Vision, Mission, and Covenant Committee has been gathering your input through a series of focus groups and in an online form. Their intention is to make sure that everyone who wants to has the opportunity to have their voice heard, has the opportunity to name the hopes of this congregation and this community. In your order of service, you can find a QR code that will take you to the committee's online form. And after the second service, they'll be offering a final opportunity to participate in a focus group. Now, so far, more than 130 of you have shared your thoughts with the committee. We have a goal of hearing from at least 150 people, roughly half the membership of the congregation, before the committee begins the work of crafting a new mission, vision, and covenant. If you've not yet participated, please do so and help the congregation reach that level of engagement. Our hopes are so much easier to act upon when we share them with each other. I would also be remiss not to mention another opportunity to act upon and share your hopes with this community today. Between the two services and then again on Tuesday online, the Building Task Force will be presenting the work that they have identified needs to be done and might be done as part of a prospective capital campaign. Such a campaign is a time when we name the hopes for our community and then commit to bring them into being. And there's a lot being considered. Everything from attending to deferred maintenance and greening and beautifying our building. Final decisions about the campaign will not take place until December, and the draft text of the mission, vision, and covenant will be shared then too. So now is the time to let your hopes for the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston be known. I close with these references to the work of the church because they are, once again, illustrative of our theology of hope. They begin with what is, the desire for a new mission, vision, and covenant, and the need to address critical issues in the building. But then they offer us the opportunity to what should be. Mission, vision, and covenant cast in the language and embodying the aspirations of present generations, and a physical plant that meets our needs and reflects our values. And they suggest a path between, a way to act upon hope, the what is and the what should be. We need a litany, a rosary, a shout, a melody for our hope. Act upon hope. May this community be a place for each of us, for all of us, be the times easy or hard, to act upon hope. That it might be so, I invite the congregation to say Amen.
I invite you again to turn to your teal hymnal and number 1074, and we will turn the world around. Please rise in body or in spirit.
We come from the fire, living in the fire, come back to the fire, turn the world around. We come from the water, living in the water, go back to the water, turn the world around. We come from the mountain.
in the words for extinguishing the chalice that can be found on the new pew cards. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Let us leave this place ever able to name what is, imagine what should be, and envision a path between the two. Let us call that path hope. May we act upon it today and in all the days of our lives. Go in peace, go in love. May our lives be a blessing. Amen. Thank you so much for watching our service today. We're glad you're part of our online community, where we welcome people who are diverse in faith, ethnicity, history, as well as gender identity and sexual orientation. There are many different ways you can get involved in our community. One you can do right now is by clicking like below or subscribing to our channel. If you're interested in joining our congregation, please email us at membership@firstuuhouston.org. Thanks so much for joining us.